Welcome, Eagles everywhere, to the NovaCare Complex and our coverage of the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles, presented by DraftKings. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro along with Fran, Duffy, and we're taking a look at the practice field. We are live. That is A.J. Brown. That is Zach Pascal. And everybody is fired up. Season opener on Sunday, 1 o'clock in Detroit. Fran, Duffy, how are you on this beautiful Thursday in South Philadelphia?
One day closer to game day, so I am feeling great, Dave. I'm excited for the start of the season. Really, really juiced up to watch this team take the field on Sunday in Detroit against a Lions team that should not be slept on. Obviously, everybody has been watching them all summer nationally on Hard Knocks. This is going to be a really interesting battle here between these two teams, where things really flipped for both of them around midseason last year.
And Brandon Graham going back home, playing in his hometown of Detroit, Michigan, returning after a Week 2 Achilles tendon injury in 2021. BG, Fran, we've talked about it throughout the summer. BG appears to be the same Brandon Graham. You see one thing that's the same. His mouth is always moving.
Yes.
He's always talking, and he's just energized, and he brings that kind of juice to this building, to this football team, to the city.
Yeah, almost smiling, I should say. Maybe on game day a little bit different, but BG, obviously a beloved figure, and just having him back on the field, on the practice field, on game day, on the sidelines, what he brings to this Eagles defense, not too dissimilar with what number 62 brings himself on the other side, Dave.
Yeah, and Fran, and there's Jason Kelsey, who I think very eloquently yesterday discussed the idea of being content and feeling your oats, if you will, as all these outside people promoting the Eagles, hyping up the Eagles, this football team not listening to that. I would like to begin our conversation here, Fran, when we talk about the Eagles and the Lions in the trenches. We first saw Brandon Graham, the Eagles D-line, going against a Detroit offensive line that absolutely has some injury concerns. We know Big V, Helipoli Vitae, I screwed that name up, but I've done it for years. He will not play. He's on IR.
Yep.
But they've also, beyond that, got some injuries. Talk about Frank Ragnow and what his status is, and even deeper into the injury situation for the Lions. They're scrambling, it sounds like, right now to see who's going to play on Sunday.
Yeah, so Frank Ragnow limited by a groin injury at Lions practice. Tommy Kramer, who was an undrafted free agent a year ago out of Notre Dame, the latest thought that I had heard was he was slated to step in for Big V at right guard. Now it looks like he was out of practice lately. So
with a back injury.
Yeah, so now they're going to be dealing with their fourth guard, who was a fourth-round pick a couple years ago, Logan Stenberg out of Kentucky. Reportedly had a really good summer out there with the Lions, so I don't think that they're too stressed about it in terms of trying to get him in there. But if Ragnow is out, that means that they're going to have to play in their backup center, Evan Brown, who played the majority of the season last year. But regardless, any way you slice it, Dave, they're going to be dealing with a lot of moving parts up front if this comes to pass in terms of the injuries along the offensive line.
Right. Now, the Lions are strong on the edges with Taylor Decker, with Penei Sewell, right? Good young players, or Decker's a veteran. Sewell's what, his
second year now. Yep.
First-round draft pick last year. So that'll be the Eagles. Look, they want to attack this Detroit Lions defense the offense as they did last year. Fran, 44-6. Eagles go to Detroit, win on October 31st. Darius Slay, Hassan Reddick, ready to play ball and attack a Lions team that after that game, you talked about it. They really became a pretty good football team, 3-3 down the stretch, with some big playmakers on the outside.
No doubt. So I think when you look at them, really the big thing happened. They changed offensive play callers and ultimately promoted their new play caller, Ben Johnson, to be offensive coordinator this offseason. And when he took over, it was right around week 9, week 10. So it was a couple weeks after they lost to the Eagles. By the way, that loss last year, Dan Campbell has said in press conferences this week, that was their low point in a season of low points last year. That was as bad as they had felt after any loss after that Eagles game. And so when you look at what Ben Johnson brings to the table, they're going to be a lot more creative. And obviously that's going to be something that C.J. Gardner-Johnson and the rest of that Eagles secondary, they're going to have to deal with all the different things they do schematically on Sunday.
Yeah, really, look, as we talk about Detroit's moving parts on the offensive line, we cannot overlook the Eagles with basically 3 new starters in the defensive secondary.
Yep.
With James Bradbury making his Eagles debut, with C.J. Gardner-Johnson making his Eagles debut, and with Marcus Epps suddenly the veteran in the safety room. That's a lot of change, and getting all those pieces and the communications and all the checks, everybody on the same page, that is the challenge for this week.
No doubt. And they're going to give you a lot to worry about from a communication standpoint, because they do a lot of motions, a lot of screens, play action, and boot with getting Jared Goff outside the pocket. And so they're going to do a little bit more of that than what the Eagles saw a year ago, where they were very stationary when the Eagles faced this team last year. There was a lot of Jared Goff in the shotgun, keeping him in the pocket, short, quick throws to the running back and to the tight end. Different animal this year. They're doing a lot of different things, and I think that they're going to give the Eagles a lot to handle from a communication standpoint in this game.
If you are just joining us, I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with the great Fran Duffy, and we are live in South Philly on a beautiful Thursday. Our coverage of the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles as they prepare for the season opener in Detroit. Our coverage presented by DraftKings, and we got you covered here. Going to show you just the first little bit here of Eagles practice and give you a sense of what's happening as we open the curtain and unveil a football team, Fran, that is looking to take that next step in 2022. Maybe surprise some people last year. 3-5 or 2-5 start, turn it into a 9-7, a 9-8 regular season, a playoff appearance. Stock up, Fran, in an offseason where the defense changes so dramatically, and then offensively you bring in a big piece in A.J. Brown, and everybody thinks the Eagles are the hot team in the NFL, in the NFC for sure. The battle, I see it, is, hey, Eagles, don't listen to, as Jalen Hurts calls, the rat poison.
That's it. Honestly, look, the Eagles are not sneaking up on anybody this year, right? I mean, I think when you look at the way that things turned out midway through last year, there was a tough start to the season, 2-5 to be able to start coming out of the gate, and then they went on that run. This year, you talk about all of the hype surrounding this team, all of the big additions on both sides of the football. Teams are going to have this game circled on the calendar. This is not going to be an easy out when you face this Philadelphia Eagles team. And so when you look on both sides of the football, this is going to be a big test every single week. And look, this is a team I think is up for that challenge, Dave. When you talk about strength in the trenches, along the line of scrimmage, on both sides, that's going to give you a chance to win every single game. It's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this squad.
You know, it's really interesting you mentioned the trenches. Today, the Eagles had offensive line coach Jeff Stout. You see him in the background there over the shoulder of holder Aaron Sipas, talking about the O-line. And in his usual animated self way, he's just so into it. I did a big piece on PhiladelphiaEagles.com about the offensive line, and I think maybe, Fran, we kind of take it for granted around here, and you really shouldn't. Look at the NFC, what happened with the Cowboys. The Giants have been trying to rebuild their offensive line for years. Washington loses their all-pro right guard. The Detroit
Bucks,
Lions,
the Bucks right now,
right, they start the open on Sunday night, and they've got major troubles. It doesn't take much of a search through the NFL to see that teams really have trouble with the offensive line. The Eagles, on the other hand, Fran, I think we feel like this is as deep a group as we have seen in quite a while.
No doubt. I think when you look at the starters and even the backups, this is just a really strong group from top to bottom. A lot to be excited about. And it's a big reason why so many of the analysts and so many in the media feel so strongly about this team that Nick Sirianni is leading right now in terms of their ability to win up front. And that's going to give all of that skill talent all over the place the ability to shine, is because you know that there's going to be holes open there in the run game and plenty of time for Jalen Hurts in pass protection.
Hey, if you can, let's narrow in on Nick's shirt there. That's a mossed. Is that Dallas Goedert with a big catch? Who did he moss last year? Is that what that is?
Is that the Jets game? I feel like he had a big catch like that in the Jets game last year where he went up and over someone. Because remember, he had a couple touchdowns in the first half. That might be from that game. I have to take a closer look at that one.
I mean, Nick's T-shirts have become a thing of some real enjoyment for everyone connecting with the team. We do have a couple of those T-shirts available in the Pro Shop, a Reggie White version and a Brian Dawkins version, and he will wear them at some point this season. They are available in the Pro Shop at Lincoln Financial Field for fans who want to be like Nick.
I'm probably going to get in the car and drive over there right now. Now that I know that that's there.
Impressions of Nick Sirianni year 2, Fran. I mean, really a very admirable job in year 1, keeping a team together that started 2-5, that faced a lot of scrutiny, that really wasn't able to kind of assert itself offensively. And Nick just stuck with it. He stuck with being Nick Sirianni. The players responded. 7-3 in the final 10 games of the regular season. Now he's got more pieces to work with. I think the approach is the same, though. I think the genuineness of Nick Sirianni is so evident to the players, and that's why they like him so much.
I think that we get so stuck in when we talk about a coach. It's so often the conversation gets drawn to the scheme and the X's and O's element of it. But it's just like you said. Just as he was willing to stick to his energy, his demeanor, the way he wants to set the culture, he was the opposite from a scheme standpoint, from a philosophical standpoint. He said, we're going to turn this thing on its head midstream last year and say, okay, we're going to be one of the most pass-happy teams and completely go the other way, now become one of the most run-heavy teams, and because that's what fit that team in 2021 best. That's what allowed them to have the most success. And so, to me, that's why so many people look back on that season last year for Nick Sirianni and this entire coaching staff and say, job well done.
Yeah, for sure. And players, when you see players improve, like TJ Edwards has improved, you go, hey, that Nick Rallis right there, he must be a pretty darn good coach. I mean, I always measure the quality of a coaching staff largely on the improvement of the players, the tangible improvement of players. And I'm not sure in the last couple of years here, Fran, there's anyone more improved than TJ Edwards.
And he had a great summer, didn't he? I felt like every single day he was making plays in coverage, making plays along the sideline. He was such a productive player in college, and the question was, is that production going to carry over to the NFL? And every single year we've seen number 57 improve and make strides. Remember that leaping interception he made last year against the New Orleans Saints? It was those kinds of plays that just gave you a sense like this guy can be a 3-down player, and I think that's what he's going to be in this defense.
He and Kaiser White expected to be the starters at linebacker along with Hassan Reddick. Fran, let's talk about this matchup against Detroit, a 3-13-1 team. They go out and with the second pick overall in the NFL draft, they take Aiden Hutchinson from the University of Michigan. Later in the first round, they took Jamison Williams, the very talented wide receiver from Alabama, who will not play in this game, of course. What are you thinking about Hutchinson, his impact? He and Charles Harris off the edge. They want to attack. Last year, of course, the Eagles ran the football extremely effectively, 239 or 234 on the ground, whatever it was, and 4 touchdowns and just dominating. What do you expect from Detroit defensively?
Well, I think when you look at just the front, and you mentioned Hutchinson, you mentioned Charles Harris, those two guys are going to be the starters off the edge. When it comes to matchups and saying, is he going to match up against Jordan Mailata? Is he going to be matched up against Lane Johnson? I would say yes, he's good because they move him around. They move Aiden Hutchinson and Charles Harris around, so you'll get reps against both tackles. And on third down, Dave, what they did with Hutchinson is they kicked him inside almost every third down in a passing situation in the preseason. Reportedly, that's what they did with him in practice as well. So expect the idea of blocking Aiden Hutchinson and not letting him wreck the game. That is going to be a full team effort up front along the offensive line.
And, the Lions in the secondary, I'm really fascinated. They want to play a lot of man-to-man defense. That's kind of what Aaron Glenn does.
Yep.
But with that, you've got to match up against, there he is, Darius Slay, the Eagles, one of the Eagles' captains.
Yep.
He's fired up. How do you match up with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith? Are the Lions really going to try to play in a man-to-man situation? I mean, look, they do think that they're better in the secondary, largely because their first-round draft pick of a few years ago, Jeff Okudah, is healthy. He's played only 10 games in his NFL career, 1 as a rookie before he tore his groin injury?
I believe it was a groin and an Achilles.
Yeah. Very talented player.
Yep.
So you're going to go one-on-one against AJ and Devontae?
I think the big thing with Okudah, it's been interesting just to kind of follow it throughout the course of this calendar year, because when I remember going out to the Combine, and one of the big topics with the Lions was the rumor that Jeff Okudah was going to be moved to safety after those 2 season-ending injuries, and they kind of poo-pooed that early, but then they made him compete this summer for the starting job, and it went down to the final preseason game battling with a corner, Walt Harris, who actually is a converted safety, so they made Jeff Okudah earn a starting job. This is a big corner coming out of Ohio State, number 3 3 overall pick, 6'1", over 200 pounds. His physicality and his play strength, that's what really makes him stand out. And so I think when you look at that, he's going to try and battle A.J. Brown. He is going to try and get physical with A.J. Throughout the course of this game. And if he's matched up on Devontae, that's going to be the way that he's going to try and play this game. I would keep an eye on that for number 1 for the Detroit Lions. And then on the other side, Amani Oruwariye, he was healthy all of last year, was very productive. He had a number of interceptions. The question with him, Dave, has been his speed, his ability to be able to carry receivers vertically down the field. And so trying to match up against that secondary, that would be something to watch there on the outside.
What else about Detroit's defense sticks out to you?
They're going to be a very aggressive group. They had more injuries than anybody last year. They played more rookies on defense than anyone in the entire NFL. And a number of those rookies, Dave, no longer there. They cut their undrafted free agent rookie that started every game in the slot last year, A.J. Parker. They bring in a former first-round pick in Mike Hughes to start in the slot this year. I feel like if they're healthy, they're going to feel a lot more confident to do, just like you said, play more man coverage, and they also want to blitz more. I remember watching them last summer in the preseason. They did a lot of really creative things. And again, you go back to where Aaron Glenn comes from. He was a longtime NFL vet for sure, but the last few years, he had been with the New Orleans Saints and Dennis Allen, and they have been one of the more pressure-happy defenses in the NFL, one of the more fun defensive schemes to study in the NFL because they are willing to bring pressure on third down. They'll use their linebackers. They'll mix up different packages up front along the defensive line and then play man-to-man coverage on the back end. So that would be something to watch here with this Lions defense. Now that they're healthy and now that you add some more of those pieces like a Hutchinson up front, you get some players back off injury, do they feel a little bit more comfortable to play the way that Aaron Glenn wants to play on defense?
I really want to hear this analysis, Fran. More and more and more from you, and I will on Sunday at 12:15. The Eagles kickoff show presented by Little Caesars will feature Fran in studio.
Yes.
You and Ella knocking it out. I'll be out in Detroit, giving the perspective from Ford Field. We'll show you the live warm-ups from Ford Field as the Eagles get ready to open the season, and players like Kaiser White and the debut that he will make after a really fine preseason, an impressive preseason, an impressive training camp. Just can't wait to see what Jonathan Gannon has to offer defensively. He's kept so much of his intentions under wraps. And I understand that there's a bit of gamesmanship here.
Yeah.
What does he have in store for 43? And what did you see from 43 in the summer?
I think the big thing, obviously, for fans, I mean, they saw in that preseason debut, opening drive defensively, he picks off Zach Wilson on the opening drive, and it was great eyes from him as an underneath zone coverage defender, read the quarterback the entire way, followed his eyes to the football, and made the play. Now, if he picks that off clean, he's probably taking that to the house, Dave. It was a little bit bobbled at the catch point. Maybe get Kaiser on the jugs machine after that one, but he was able to come up with the interception. Really good job there. I think when you watch Kaiser White over the course of his career, his versatility has been so paramount for his success. And he was a guy that had a bunch of tackles last year out in LA with the Chargers, who run a very similar defensive scheme to the one here in Philadelphia. So a lot of the language was very similar. A lot of the assignments very, very similar. And to me, one of the things that stands out, he was a former safety at West Virginia, but he's not just like an athletic runaround guy. He actually made a number of plays in the trenches, watching him on tape, that really, really stood out to me. So this is a multi-dimensional linebacker. I'm excited to watch and see how he fits here behind this Eagles defensive line.
There's a lot of pieces out there I'm looking forward to seeing. I mean, Milton Williams in his second season.
Yep.
You know, Derek Barnett comes back as part of a rotational system the Eagles are going to employ at the defensive end position. Tuipulotu. Marlon Tuipulotu, who had a good summer, who last year just didn't really get his season on track. The Eagles wanted to see him a second time, and he impressed enough to make this 53-man roster. What are you going to do with Hassan Reddick? How are you going to employ him? Number 7 there in the middle with his trademark sweatshirt, the hoodie. How much does Brandon Graham give you early on, coming back from that Achilles tendon? So Tracy Rocker, the defensive line coach, has a lot of pieces to work with, a lot of questions to answer.
We were talking about this week on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, myself and Greg Cosell, and also with Chris McPherson on the episode that just dropped this morning, Dave. And when you look at the Eagles depth chart up front, I think a lot of people, it's like, okay, let me go to PhiladelphiaEagles.com, let me look at the depth chart, or go to NFL.com, let me look at the depth chart. And they take that look as gospel and say, all right, well, it's 4 down linemen. Who's the backup defensive end? Who's the starting right defensive end? Who's the defensive tackles? The thing to keep in mind, the Eagles are so multiple up front. That's something that they want to be. They want to be very versatile with all of their different looks. 3 down, 4 down, 5 down linemen at any given time, right? Depending on the situation. Well, in all of those packages, you're going to have different depth charts. And so you might say, okay, well, in this look, this is going to be this is the first team unit. It might be Brandon Graham at defensive end with Derek Barnett. In another grouping, it might be Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat. In another grouping, it might be Jordan Davis at nose tackle with Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave on either side, right? So you'll have all of these different combinations, all of those versatile skill players. You mentioned Milton Williams and Tui Pelotu, Teron Jackson, all these young guys that have the ability to win from a number of different techniques. That gives the coaching staff the ability to be versatile. You can't be multi-dimensional schematically if you don't have multi-dimensional players, and that's exactly what they have up front.
We take a look at Miles Sanders on the field, and that is great news. Yep. He did meet the media this morning, said he is absolutely ready to go for Sunday. He is experiencing exactly 0 problems with that hamstring. And Fran, this week the Eagles add a 4th, or rather last week they add a 4th running back to the mix. Trey Sermon played at Oklahoma, at Ohio State, a 3rd-round draft pick by the Niners, released after 1 year. And now he's in Philadelphia, 215-ish pounds. I spoke to him yesterday. He seems like this system is more akin to what he did in college rather than the wide zone, what they did in San Fran. Maybe Trey Sermon can be that big physical running back that we saw in college.
Yeah, I mean, he has got that skill set to be that physical between the tackles kind of runner. And I think when you look at the way that the Eagles try and run the ball, and it's exactly what he said to you, Dave, is that this is a team that is I said this about the defense, they're so multiple up front in terms of the way that they try and attack defenses with the run game. You see Jeff Stoutland there on the right side of your screen in the background. They use so many different this isn't just, they're a great zone run team, or they're a great downhill power run team, or they always use the quarterback element. They use all of it, all of the different elements you could possibly imagine in your run scheme. Jeff Stoutland, the run game coordinator, he is going to employ all of those schemes. So when you get a player like a Trey Sermon, you're not going to just kind of plug a round peg into a square hole. You're going to say, okay, what does this guy do well? We've got the run schemes that work for this guy. Let's try and employ him into the scheme, doing what he does best.
Fran, you mentioned your Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast. My Eagles Insider podcast dropped today as well, and it featured that guy right there, number 65, Lane Johnson. And can you believe it? In his 10th season, he thinks he's at the very top of his game. Stout thinks that he's at the very top of his game. 335 pounds, hasn't lost any of his quickness. Really a special player, standing next to a special player in Jason Kelce.
Yep.
Part of the reason the Eagles are so excited about what they're doing up front on both sides of the ball, Fran. It really is. We're focusing a lot today on the line of scrimmage, and there's the big guy, Jordan Davis, who was taking a little snoozer in the Eagles locker room earlier, getting ready for some practice. When you invest so much in the line of scrimmage, you see that it pays off on both sides of the ball for years and years to come, and that's kind of the situation the Eagles are in right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that when you can come at teams in waves up front, there are so many benefits to having that philosophy from a team-building standpoint. You look at the offensive line, and it's not just, look at all the first-round picks. Look at some of the day 3 picks. Look at some of the undrafted free agents. You see Sua Opeta back there, an undrafted free agent that has turned into a starting quality player. Obviously, Jordan Mailata as a 7th-round pick, never having played the sport before arriving here in Philadelphia. The job that the development you've seen from the coaching staff there. I think when you look at the way that this team addresses the lines of scrimmage, the assets they put into the trenches from a volume standpoint, it's so beneficial in a number of ways.
We're taking a look at the Eagles tight end group. In the background there you see Tyree Jackson, who is working his way back from his Achilles, or his torn ACL, suffered in the regular season finale last year against the Dallas Cowboys. Fran, this is a very interesting group, really. It's a group that has changed, obviously. We now have Dallas Goedert as the TE1, Jack Stoll as the TE2. What do you make of this group? Grant Calcaterra, 6th-round draft pick, is a tight end 3.
Yep.
What do you make of this group?
I think when you look at it, Dallas Goedert's got the ability to be one of the most versatile tight ends in football. And we've been saying that since almost he arrived here as a second-round pick coming out of South Dakota State. What he can do as both a run blocker and as a pass catcher is almost unrivaled. There aren't a lot of guys in the league that are able to do everything at the level that Dallas Goedert does. So you start there. That's the starting point with that group. And then you look at the rest of the depth chart, and you mentioned Grant Calcaterra, early day 3 pick for the Eagles this year, coming out of SMU. He, too, began his career at Oklahoma, caught passes, working with Jalen Hurts and playing for Lincoln Riley out there in Norman, Oklahoma. So you have Grant Calcaterra, you have Jack Stoll, who made the team last year as an undrafted free agent and a really good blocker. He does a really good job at the point of attack, which is obviously pivotal in this scheme, but also just a very reliable hands catcher as well. Just a really very a reliable, steady receiver. So this is just an interesting group. It's obviously young. There's some unprovenness there with some young players, but then you factor in number 88 there on your screen, Dallas Goedert. That goes a long way.
And by the way, just in case you're wondering, Calcaterra jersey number change, he is now 81.
Yep.
Eagles also have on their practice squad, number 46, there's Jaden Graham.
Yep.
And they also have, let's see, there's one other.
They added Dalton Keene
Dalton
yesterday,
Keene is
right?
on there too, right? That's
yeah.
correct.
Dalton Keene was a 4th-round pick, I believe, by the Patriots a couple of years ago, coming out of Virginia Tech. I thought he had starting traits when he came out. Obviously, it did not work out for him in New England, but very much like Trey Sermon, the Eagles just taking a look-see at a player that was a pretty high draft pick or not too long ago in the draft.
Jersey number 47, Dalton Keene. We'll see what kind of impression he makes learning the system and impressing the coaching staff. We are here live at the NovaCare Complex. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy. And this is our coverage as we begin the 2022 regular season, allowing you to take a peek behind the curtain. Our coverage presented by DraftKings. Darius Slay, excited to go back to Detroit, where he played such great football for 7 seasons. He goes back a captain for the first time, Fran.
Awesome.
And to hear him speak about it with such pride really goes to show how much it means to players when their peers vote for them to represent the team. I love it.
Yeah, it's outstanding. And that's the thing is, like, when you watch Darius Slay on the practice field, you see what kind of professional he is and how much he works to improve his craft, but not just for himself. He's out there working with young corners. He's out there working with young receivers. I remember last year some of the conversations we would see on the sidelines between him and Devontae Smith, and obviously there were some of those videos that went viral of those guys messing around on the practice field, but it wasn't just fun and games. You could tell that those guys were really taking a businessman approach to the way that they were going through practice and just helping each other get better on a daily basis.
And I got to be honest with you, friend, with Slay, it took me a while to figure him out because I always wonder about players when they come from environments that don't produce a lot of victories. And they're great players, but do they understand really what it takes to not only be good individually, but to contribute to team success? Obviously, team success leads to individual success, not the other way around. And Slay, with that personality, you go, gosh, does he take this game seriously? Does he know he's in Philadelphia? Well, when you hear the way coaches speak about him, when you see the way the players respect him and revere him, and just the performance goes along with that, I mean, you understand that he's just a guy out there who really enjoys the game of football.
No question. And that's the thing is that I feel like what you see from him publicly, that's who he is, right? But there is that business side of it. There is that hard-working side of it where the love of the game really, really comes out. And again, you could see that every day out on the practice field.
We saw Javon Hargrave, part of the Eagles defensive tackle combination. He was limited in practice yesterday with that toe injury. So hopefully Javon can ramp it up just a little bit here, and we'll get a designation tomorrow as to his status for Sunday's game. The good news is the Eagles are really deep at the position, but we all want to see the best players on the field, and Javon, no doubt, one of the better players on this Eagles defense that looks to just be more dominant. And Jonathan Gannon, defensive coordinators, talked about a couple of key statistics. He wants more takeaways from the defense. He wants more quarterback sacks. That kind of goes hand in hand. He wants to limit the big plays. The Eagles ranked 5th in the NFL last year in fewest big plays allowed. and getting James Bradbury and having, if you believe in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a younger, faster set at safety, a better pass rush with Hassan Reddick, with a healthy Brandon Graham, with depth off the edge. Fran, young players like Nakobe Dean coming in, learning how to play. Kaiser, a versatile player. I really think that this defense, Fran, will be taking that next step.
Yeah, no doubt. I think when you look at the way that this team plays on both sides of the football, they're going to play with a competitive spirit that is just so important to lead the wins.
Well, Eagles everywhere, we thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday. Our coverage of the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles as we get ready to kick off the regular season, presented by DraftKings. Make sure you are with us on Sunday, starting at 12:15. It's the kickoff show presented by Little Caesars. Actually, the morning begins at 10 o'clock on NBC 10. It's the Eagles Game Plan Show. That's Fran's baby. And we can't wait to see it. Eagles and the Lions, we've got you covered all the way through to and after the game on the PhiladelphiaEagles.com, on the team's official app, and our social media channels. For Fran Duffy, I'm Dave Spadaro, Eagles Insider. Thanks for joining, everyone. Have yourselves a great Eagles day. Fly, Eagles, fly, and go Birds!